So here it is, my £600 Chrysler 300C. If you guys didn't watch the last video, this was picked up as my new daily driver, and safe to say we need to do some work on it. As you'll see from the last video, it failed its MOT. We took it down to the guys at the garage, and after having the piss ripped out of me, we got this thing MOT'd, clean bill of health, but we did need some tyres on it. So white tyres came in and we were able to source some tyres straight away. And although all of you absolutely love the chrome and blue look, today is the day we change all of that. I am not the biggest fan of whatever the hell is going on here. I mean, blue and chrome, it doesn't necessarily go together. The blue factory paint with chrome add-ons that look like they've come off eBay, I don't know, mate, it's not for me. We're going to start changing how this vehicle looks in the most budget-friendly way, because this is a budget build. We're going to do things not like we used to, maybe a little bit more professionally, but not as professional as it should be, but it should come out pretty cool. We're interrupting today's video to give a massive thank you to today's sponsor, Carly. Carly is changing the automotive world with products they offer to car owners with the world's best solutions to gain more control and transparency over your car. Carly supports all kinds of situations, whether it's a problem with the car, buying a used car. This is simply done by putting the Carly dongle into your OBD port, turning on new ignition and opening up the app. Carly's main features include manufacturer level car diagnostics, read out and delete fault codes, get repair guides for specific issues with Smart Mechanic. Unbelievably, the 300C has come back with an all good score of 0 issues found, which is fantastic news. Check used car odometer fraud and behaviour of past drivers, track engine live data. Also get 15% discount now with code JFYD23, valid until the end of July. Changing up and jumping into a 2011 Audi Q5, I'm able to change the vehicle on the Carly app, plug the Carly dongle into the OBD port, put the ignition on and connect to the car. After running an initial check, the car has come up with 2 faults. I'll remove these now and see if they come up in a few days. You can even ask Carly to remind you to rescan the car in a few days. After that, I can jump into the coding and unlock a ton of hidden features specific to this car. Please be very aware that all cars are very different and this is only available on certain cars. You can check if your car is compatible by signing up to the Carly website, selecting your brand of car, and it will tell you what is possible. Coding features of course change per car. What I will do is code in the locking sound so you can hear when the car is locked. So now every time I lock the car, this is the sound it will make. Remember, Carly, link is in the description. Do a diagnostics check. Thankfully, there's nothing wrong with my 300C after doing a ton of work to it. This is the perfect tool for any car enthusiast out there, so grab yours in the link in the description. But let's get back to the video. So if we're going to change the colour of this, we've got to take as much stuff off as possible. So first off was the door rubbers. These just pulled straight off the car. Now, it has left a lot of residue on the vehicle. And as you can see, we pulled the front badge off as well, including the rear badge to go with it. We will get a toffee wheel and try and get as much of that off before we do go down the route of doing something with the colour on this vehicle. Next up was taking all of the horrendous chrome off of the car. So we started with the door pillars. We took all of the chrome off the top of the doors. Very easy to get this off. There's a single bolt just next to the handle, and as you can see, they pull straight off if you take that bolt out. I was very surprised at how easy this actually was to get off, so we will be changing the colour of them very soon. Next up was the rear lights. They came off with these little tabs, unplug, and they literally just come straight off the car. The bumper was pretty similar too. I'm doing a few bolts and it slides straight off, also unplugging the sensors. Next up was the front bumper, popping the bonnet and undoing all of the plastic push fittings off. The next bit after taking these bits out for the fender liners would actually usually be taking the bolts out of underneath here. You see that? But someone's already done that for us because they're not connected to anything under the car. That made life a lot easier, taking the front bumper off, and as you can see, both bumpers are off and ready to be sanded down. The next day started with taking everything off the front bumper ready for paint and sanding. So that's taking out the side markers, the grille, which was a bit of a challenge. There's a lot of rusty bolts on this car, but that came out in one piece. Now we will be assessing that down the line with these chrome bits as well coming off the front bumper. Pretty easy to take off, which is reassuring, but I want to paint these black. Let me know how you would do that in the comments below. Now starts the big job of sanding the whole car down. You may be asking yourself why I'm using a cheap mouse sander. Well, that's the only thing I have to hand, and because this is a budget build, I wanted to make sure we weren't just spending money on power tools for no reason. So that was about 20-30 quid from B&Q, and I was using 320 grit sandpaper that I got from the internet, and then we were going through the little crevices with some of this red Scotch, again bought offline. I must admit it was relatively easy with this sander. It got into all of the bits that I needed it to. It was easy to maneuver around these parts of the bumper and underneath. I am no professional though, so I would probably use something a little bit bigger if we were spending the money, but because again this is a budget build, I'm just using stuff that is to hand. I've used this sander on tons of little projects at home, so I thought I might as well have a go here too. Now, as you'll see, the bumper is pretty much ready to go, bar getting all the dust and horrible residue from the sander. I will say now though that this took a lot longer than I thought it would, so shout out to all the body shop guys out there. It is an incredibly tedious job getting this right. Now onto the vehicle though, and as you'll see, I tried to get ahead of myself. I actually spent a good amount of time the day before just going through, trying to do most of the front end on the left hand side before getting the camera out, trying to get it right, but again, I'm no professional. And as you'll see here, I'm trying to go, as I go round the car, red scotching all of the areas I can't get to with the sander. Coming round to the rear though, this is where I could have really done with a bigger sander, as it was just a little bit harder and a little bit more tedious with the mouse sander that I was using, but it still did a very good job, as you'll see, making really good progress in not that much time at all. And going back over the boot with the red scotch in all of the areas that the sander couldn't get to, or where I'd probably burn through if I tried to get to with the sander. This is one of those things that I didn't really take into consideration when I painted other things in the past. I've just sort of burnt through the paint and hoped for the best. Onto the rear of the boot though, and as you'll see, the toffee wheel has come out. This is a great tool to use on vehicles. I'm not too fussed about the paint on this, but I have used this on my Series 1 RS Turbo underneath the bonnet to get tons of residue off. This was only about 6 quid offline posted, which isn't too bad. Moving on to the right hand side of the car, and again, this is just a super tedious part of the painting process, but going back to the idea of using a sander like this, it was actually a lot easier to get in and out of where I needed to, especially around the door handles there. I know I'm not going to go right into the door handle itself, but it made it a lot easier to actually get as close as possible and cover as much area as possible, because it was slightly smaller than what you would usually use to sand a vehicle. The last thing I wanted to do though was go round the car again and just catch all of the edges that I'd already previously been past. Now I feel this is where I'm going to find problems down the line, so I went back and assessed every single edge, every door edge, and everything over the front end, including the bonnet. Everything that is going to be a possible problem down the line.
So I've got to a pretty crucial point in the sanding down of the vehicle where I've gone through every panel, I've gone down every edge as much as I can, and what I'll do is show you where we are at right now. As you'll see, basically everything is ready to go for paint, bar the toffee wheel going down the doors. As you can still see, there is a bit of residue from the strips going down the door. Thankfully there is no bolt holes here or fixing holes, so we don't have to assess that and actually go through and fill those holes, which is fantastic news. But we do have to do the toffee wheel down here. Unfortunately, I can't find the charger on my drill. Don't know where it's gone, but I'll find it for the next video. So that's what we've got to do for the sides. I've sanded in all of the crevices as far as I can go, going all the way down, all over the roof. Of course, we have not sanded the sunroof. We will be covering that up when it's painted. The back end, unfortunately, does have 2 holes in it just here. Now, what I'm probably going to do is reattach the badge, but we will change the color of the badge because we're trying to take as much chrome off this car as physically possible. I don't want any chrome on this thing when it's back together. And coming around this side is a very similar story. Started to go on the toffee wheel just there, as you'll see, and unfortunately my batteries died, but thankfully both bumpers are ready to go. So what I'll probably do is actually get these down to TW Body Repairs and get him to start changing the color of these. But there is something I want to ask you guys. The chrome bits that came on the bumper, so the back strip going along, the front strip here, and the grille, what color should we go, and how would you paint this chrome? Now, I say chrome very lightly, it's sort of plastic chrome, but it means it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to actually paint this stuff, so I might wrap it. I'm no good at wrapping, but I'll sure as hell have a go. I have seen black grills on the internet, but because, you know, we're trying to do a budget build here, trying to do as much of this as possible at as low cost as possible. So let me know in the comments below. But in the very sorry state that the 300C is in, I want to thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next video. And you never know, it might be painted by then, but it probably won't because there's still loads to do. And I've been, look, this is like day 3 of me sanding it. Insane.